Good evening and happy late solstice. I am just sitting out here tonight, just had my supper and just taking in the evening. I want to talk tonight about the concept of delusion because, boy, the more I live, the more it just seems like this world, the people in this world are just losing their fucking minds. And if I'm being honest, it's been a slow build up all of my life. I was born in 94, and since then it just seems like I had a very idyllic childhood. Very idyllic. And I watched as that idealism and quote safe environment gave way to delusion and just this idea of collective madness. Mass formation psychosis, as it's been called. It's been a lot like a video game where it just seems like every year, every week, every month, the video game gets harder, and I have to keep pace and keep myself strong for the game, right? But I was 7 years old when 9/11 happened, and it took me about 9 years to figure out that was a hoax. I figured it out when I was about 16, and there are grown-ass old adults today who still believe the official narrative of that, and it's just incredibly sad to see how much the trauma has a stranglehold over their minds, that they can't fathom the idea that the government would lie to them. And of course, in 2020, there was the whole, COVID psyop, and 2022, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which, gosh, my hometown, Corvallis, Oregon, it used to be known for one of the longest running peace protests in the whole country. And I watched that give way to this masked, warmongering mass of people, waving the blue and yellow Ukrainian flag, like they obviously were not paying attention in 2014 when there was a coup in Ukraine, when there was a civil war in Ukraine. These people are screaming, support Ukraine. I drove by it one day, and I just rolled down my window. This woman, old enough to be my mom, waving the yellow and blue flag, and I just looked right in her eyes, and I just said, "Shame on you, you fucking warmongers." And they just looked at me. I couldn't see most of their face because of their fucking masks, but their eyes said it all. Just a shock, like nobody had ever spoken to them like that before, because they're so fucking sheltered. No idea what goes on beyond the borders of the fucking Shire. Oregon, the Shire. These people, you know, and they're very liberal, and I don't want to get off on a rap about just talking shit about liberals because, you know, I've moved to Southern Oregon now, and there's a lot of conservatives around here, and they're just as delusional when it comes to certain other things. Although it does seem like the delusion is more in the camp of the leftists these days. I mean, Corona, PSYOP, y'all really dropped the ball with that. I mean, I saw right through it from the beginning. Tried to tell everyone I was around, and it was like talking to a brick wall, and all of a sudden they're passive aggressive, turning on me, just like kicking me out of my rental property, calling the cops on me when I'm trying to get paid, stuff like that. It's just really, really odd, weird stuff that was happening. But the delusion has no end. I mean, people can't tell the difference between a man and a woman these days. I mean, I had a friend in high school, you know, early adulthood, who I went to his wedding. I actually lived with him for a year or so, you know, roommates, living in the same house, and I went to his wedding. He married this older woman, and then he had a kid, and then a few years later, you know, I kind of lost touch with him, you know, went off to college somewhere, and came back and find out, you know, he's no longer a man. Allegedly. Just people are just dropping the ball all over the place, and it's obviously just this traumatic, infantile regression. I mean, okay, so the conservatives during the whole Corona PSYOP, you know, they were railing against the government, but in the same fucking breath, they're like, support our order-following cops, as if they aren't involved in the PSYOP. Nothing government does can ever get done and be enforced without the force of cops, order followers. You know, it's the kind of thing you see it on their trucks. Is, you know, the "don't tread on me" and then the thin blue line. It's like, who do you think is gonna tread on you? Who do you think is going to be called to take away your guns? It's the cops. And I've watched the conservatives since I was very young, you know, think that their freedom is somewhere in the Middle East. You know, they gotta send their sons off to get blown up in Iraq or Afghanistan or somewhere else. It's just complete delusion on both sides. I'm sick of it. Absolutely sick of it. And, you know, relationships, the delusion is there more than ever. I mean, I mean, personally, it's like I'm sitting here, I'm watching the collapse of the American Empire. I'm watching it all crumble and go down, and I see absolutely none of the women I went to high school with, went to college with, speaking out about any aspect of the tyranny, the encroaching tyranny that's going on. And they could not be more entitled than ever. I mean, they were raised with Disney. They were raised to be Disney princesses. And so if you're not a fucking millionaire by the age of 25, they want nothing to do with you. They don't want to build a life with a man anymore. They want a life handed to them on a silver platter. It's delusion. They're competing with each other for the top 10% of guys, 5%, 1%. I mean, it's rather disheartening. Yeah. Delusion. It's a product of trauma. And it's only through understanding that we can heal from our trauma. You know, you have to have a proper diagnosis of a problem, of an illness, before you can heal from it. You have to cast light on the darkness of the world to be able to heal from it. But by and large, it just seems like people want to stuff that away, and they're getting more and more comfortable in their delusion and trauma. And if they don't wise up here real soon, it's going to be very ugly when that trigger moment happens, that shock and awe moment where they're going to get it real fast. When, an explosion goes off beside them, or a bullet whizzes past them, or there's a fucking bread line at the grocery store. Yeah, then you might get it. If you're not a total zombie. So get ready, because it's all happening.